What's up YouTube, Duel here from Zephyr, and today bring you another live duel from locals. So on the left I am on Dark World Sacred Beast, and on the right my opponent is on Angelechy Elfnote. At this moment in time I don't know that my opponent's on the Elfnote, by the way, but they have just activated Angelechy opening to E4, which is kind of like the best card you can open up here, because what happens is it lets you place the field spell, it then lets you summon the enlisted into the extra monster zone. Then it gets to place the Bastion, and then the Bastion gets to place what should be the bigger synchro guy, the Shantranga, which basically limits your opponent to 5 monster effects. I didn't check this one, I probably should have checked. I assumed that Bastion lets you summon anything. I'm just going to, again, triple check that one, but I'm pretty sure Bastion specifically says, yeah, place specifically the Angelechy Shantranga from the extra deck. So instead of burning 500 life points every single time I activate a monster card or effect, I should be limited to 5 monster effects. But both of us kind of miss this. So I do try to play through this. I was like, right, well, technically I've got 16 card effects I can use. I've opened up Martyr, and I've opened up the Kokomiru Guardian, which, again, Kokomiru Guardian is fine, which you'll see in Game 2. But the idea behind this one is I'm just trying to get my head around the Angelecys. I just was not expecting them. They completely caught me off guard. And now I'm trying to do the maths in my head. It's like I get 16 monster effects, or 16 card effects, technically. I'm like, in a Dark World deck, and even when you add the Sacred Beast to that, I was like, oh my god, that's so costly. Like, I can burn through 16 effects. And it's every time you activate a card or an effect. So every time I activate a card, and then choose to use this effect. So, for example, the Thunderclap that I'm about to do, it's just absolutely crazy. So I get to discard Snow, which is where the synergy comes into play off of the back of Creator, and then trigger off Snow. So the Creator cost me 500 life points, Snow cost me 500 life points. And with Dark Worlds, especially, is that you don't always have, like, you know what your end goal wants to be, but you have loads of different ways you can possibly get there, depending on what gets discarded, depending on what you link into, depending on what you draw. So ultimately it becomes like, it starts to take its toll. It really does start to take its toll. I'm just trying to figure out if I can navigate through this, and then just trying to think that obviously the enlisted will destroy anything I put in the extra monster zone during my opponent's turn, which will then give them free access to any of their chess monsters, basically any of the Angelechy monsters. Choosing not to use I think I opened up the Thunderclap, which is why I chose not to use the Martyr. And I think that kind of comes back to bite me in the backside, because I was so worried about the burn. I was like, right, I'm going to burn so much here that I've got to avoid using monster effects that I can. And I was like, cool, I've got Thunderclap. Thunderclap can then get me to the field spell. And then I was like, I don't have a level 10 in my hand to reveal. So when I do this Thunderclap to get me 2 copies, because I don't have a level 10 to reveal in my hand, I don't get the field spell. So I really wish that I'd used Martyr, because if I used Martyr, I would have got the field spell, and then my field spell would have got me a level 10, which then meant I would have drawn 2 cards. And I add the gate, and then I'm like, bro, what am I doing? I don't even have a Fiend in my hand to banish, otherwise, to discard, otherwise this would be godly. So my hand at the moment is Creator, and it is Kokomiru Guardian. So I would normally summon Kokomiru Guardian and make a link. And there is, as a note actually, after the event, one of my friends was like, oh yeah, I'm looking at playing this Link 2, which is the Link 2, the one that gives you, I can't remember its name off the top of my head, someone in the comments will probably know, but the one that gives you you can normal summon your level 5 or higher monsters without tribute, and you get a quick effect to summon down a level 5 monster during either player's turn. So that card would have been crazy, because then I would have been able to get Creator, but then I don't have a discard for Creator, and I would have just burnt so much life points. And I'm just trying to calculate, and I just don't think that this is going anywhere. So yeah, a misplay on my behalf. I should have taken that extra 500 off of Martyr. I was so worried about the 500 that I decided not to use it, and it actually comes back to bite me in the backside. So lesson learned. I was so worried about it. But yeah, I'll just scoop it up. We'll go to Game 2. Game 2 is a lot better. So we draw, we get to go first. There's no opening or Angelechy opening to E4, which is thank you. Start off by normal summoning down the Kokomiru Guardian, and this is where Kokomiru Guardian is going to come into play, because we're going to reveal the Raviel in the hand. The Raviel is going to attempt to add a Sacred Beast monster from the deck to the hand, and then discard a card. So we grab the Hamon, we discard the Raviel, my opponent draws, I chain the Kokomiru Guardian. Like, you cannot afford to let draw resolve. against this deck where at all possible. Like, it just gets so powerful. So we're going for the Hamon. Hamon is going to get the Sacred Beast release. We're going to discard a card, being the Thunderclap. We then activate the Sacred Beast release. This is not how you want it to do. Like, you only want to go down this route if you need the draws. Otherwise, you would love to be discarding Dark World cards here. Like, you discard the Dark World cards, you just extend your plays even more. But this is basically just going to be the Sacred Beast combo that starts off with either Ravael, Hamon, or the Sacred Beast release. So we get to go Creator, banish it, bring back Martyr. Martyr then gets to place a continuous face up or the field spell. So we're going to place the Thunderclap. Thunderclap's effect will then, I'll be able to trigger that. This will give me access to one copy from the deck and then one from the graveyard, because obviously I had to use one earlier. This then reveals the level 10 being the Hamon, which gives me direct access to the field spell. I've still got the Uriah, so the Uriah will become a reveal and discard, so that still gives me ways to trigger Dark Worlds as I want. Just unfortunately, I've had to go through Creator, I've had to go through Raviel and Uriah already. Now, I could have brought back the Creator here. That would have given me access to another Sacred Beast. But the other is I just wanted to get a Sacred Beast to the field. We're going to use the Martyr to deck Fin 2 more copies of itself. And then we're going to use the field spell to draw 2 cards. So deck Fin, then draw is ideally what you want to be doing with this deck, especially when you've got cards like Thunderclap and the trap card you don't want to use. So we get to see Dark Corridor, which is perfection. And we're going to send the 3 Martyrs to the grave. We're going to bring back the Creator. Creator does, so Creator's a bit weird because it has 2 effects that, 2 effects that discard as effect and 1 effect that discards as cost. So you just need to make sure you do that correctly. So we then get to bring back the Raviel, and then just before we get hit with a Nibiru, or technically we're in Nibiru territory, but just to confirm we don't get hit with Nibiru, we go into Varudras. And the reason we go Varudras is because Dark Corridor is just going to be crazy here. Like, if my opponent has like 10 Senth and they've decided to hold back an interaction for this one, then that would be quite painful. So we're going to go Snow into Genta, Genta into Gates. This is when you're going to replace the field spell. This is something that I learned through playing this deck, is I was like, actually, 1 field spell, because you can't recycle it from the graveyard unless I'm missing something, isn't enough. Like, I feel that I want 2 in this build for like 2 of the Fallen Paradise ones. Whoops, as I just flick my cards everywhere. Anyway, so we activate Gates, we use Gates, we banish Genta, and the best thing about this one is this is where Raviel comes into play, because Raviel, being a fiend, actually gives you that monster that you can discard as well, which is quite nice. Using the Uriah reveals itself to grab the trap card. Now all I need to do is get the materials into play, but I can actually save that, because I can, as long as I hold on to the Uriah. Uriah is the only one that I don't play multiples of in this deck, but you'll see that I actually have the ability to set the trap cards. So I'm going to discard the Gates. I know, a bit rogue, but I didn't have another fiend. So I'm going to turn the Creator into Colossus, because we used him on. We're going to set 2. And then we're going to pass it over to our opponent's turn. Now, at this moment in time, my opponent, with 5 cards in the hand, is facing down a Colossus and a Varudras. I activate the trap card during the draw phase to bring me back Raviel. The other is that I've got Hamon and Uriah in my hand. So if my opponent has like a Dark Rule no more, so he's got evenly matched, and I'm like, right, cool, Solemn Accusation. We'll get rid of that straight away. I probably should have just paid the 15, but I paid 3k. Don't know why, because I was like, if I pay the 15, they can't use another copy, which would have been more than enough. Because I know in the way that sometimes your opponent will open up 2 evenly matched, you're like, bruh. So we still maintain Colossus, so our opponent can't search. We still maintain Varudras, and we've got the trap card in the graveyard. So if I want to get a monster effect negation onto the field, I can do that. So we normal summon down the Medius de Pure. Contemplating if I want to use the trap card here to get into the Chaotic Phantasm Beast. So we're going to banish this. We're going to use all 3 materials of the Sacred Beasts. Another one you can actually, because it summons any phantasmal monster, there's the generic phantasmal monster, which I believe it comes like a pop or something. I'll have to double check it. But going into the Chaotic Sacred Beast, I'm like, yeah, it's got 3 monster effects on it, which is quite painful. So I still maintain an Omni, I still maintain 3 monster negates, and then I've got You Cannot Search. So, and keeping in mind, this is the first time that I'm finding out my opponent's on Elfnotes. I thought they were on Cool Tunes. So they kind of got me on that one. And it's only just kind of looking what we've got. So, special summon down Lucina, not a bad one to go. And I'm like, okay, well, it looks like they're going for a Synchro 10. I'm like, is Synchro 10 the new one? Is that the June Pride? But I was like, what? I was trying to figure out what 10s I could go for. But then I was also like, well, surely you would just go, like, Black Crows here would be pretty good, because Black Crows would then bait out and negate the Phantasmal Beast. So I negate it anyway, because I can't afford to see what it goes to. Goes into TG Hyper Librarian. reveals the witness to summon itself down because they control synchro monster. That's kind of cool. That will then allow it to place, and it's like, okay, so it's a separate effect. It's confirming it's a separate effect because I don't really want that to resolve because that gets the Angelechy monsters, it gets another tuner to the field. And the other is you want to stop your opponent getting more access to tuners. I'm like, right, cool, we negate that. And then my opponent passes. I think I draw a solemn accusation for turn, but I can't remember exactly. We've still got the creator in the graveyard now that we brought it back, so we're going to banish this. Unfortunately, you have to bring it back in defense mode, which is a bit of a shame. But I've got access to any of the Sacred Beasts. So I was like, I'll go with Hamon, because at least Hamon will put a bit more pressure on there, because if I get rid of one of my opponent's monsters, that's 1,000. If I get rid of and if they get rid of one during their turn, or I get rid of one during their turn, that then does them for another 1,000. So at least I hope go for Hamon. I'm pretty sure I do. So I was like, Martyr doesn't really do anything for me. And then I do realise that I missed Thunderclap and Martyr. So this is where I feel like playing 2 field spells could be quite useful for you. Because when you recycle the Thunderclap and the Martyr, you're actually in a better position here. So, yeah, we're just doing the maths on this one. And I'm figuring out, because the Witness has 3,000 defense, like, who asked? I have to attack it with the Sacred Beast. Then I attack for 100 off of the back of the TG Hyper Librarian, and then 400 off of that, and then just confirming that they take 1,000 off of the Hamon. So it's not a huge amount of damage, but again, where I've whittled down my opponent's resource, they've got 1 card in the hand, and they draw him for turn, and that card then needs to deal with Colossus. It still needs to do with an Omni Negate, and yeah, they kind of just see the writing on the wall and scoop it up there. So this is what I quite like about the hybrid, is that it doesn't all rely on breaker, like hand rip or bust. There are ways that you don't have to hand rip, which teach their own, basically. This is, however, the negative of this deck, is that it doesn't play a lot of non-engine. So you can side into non-engine, but the cards you're going to be siding in, you're mainly going to be siding in breakers. And I mean, it's okay to side some cards out. Like sometimes I'll side out Ceruli if I'm going second. I definitely side out silver. I just don't think it's really worth having that silver to try and rip. I'd rather have gold to try and destroy. So a couple of changes you kind of consider when you're doing this. Really comes down to preference, but we can see that this is where the deck's going to start to cook a little bit more. So this is the Elfnotes just kind of going off, and this is just why the Elfnotes are so good. This doesn't even involve like any of the Angelices. They decide to, rather than playing the Fiendsmith package, because they're playing the Angelices, they play TG Hyper Librarian. Because it can still be worked. Like if you do draw the Angelechy opening to E4, you can still use it during your turn. Sorry, your opponent's turn, because you still just set it. But I think at this time, the only thing that I miss is I really wish I had a Fua or a Perulia. And that could have put on a lot of pressure. But the 2 draws that my opponent gets here is going to be very, very powerful. And then just, I'm like, bruh. So I think I sided in Evenly Matched, and I think I sided in Lava Golem, and I didn't see any of them. And then just to rub salt in the wound, after my first search being the Sacred Beasts, that gets ashed. I'm like, right, okay, cool. We'll try something else. We'll go Genta. And then, yeah, spoiler alert. Dark Worlds, good old-fashioned Nemesis draw, and I'm like, yeah, I can't play through this. So I just look at my hand, I'm like, yeah, no, can't play through this. I'm going to get hit with Crystal Beast and everything else from there. So ultimately, end up scooping it up. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, as absolutely always, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.